Sequels will never guarantee hits in the video game world. In fact, they carry the baggage of having to cater to different audiences with opposing levels of expectations. On the one hand, developers need to build a game accessible enough to bring in new audiences, but they also need to consider the core audience who supported the original game and are looking for something bigger and better. Thus, studios need to make sure that returning players have every reason to do so by improving on what they love and innovating new features. And for Guerrilla Games, that was the task facing Horizon Forbidden West, and it is one the action RPG passes with stellar flying colours. Picking things up 6 months after the events of 2017's Horizon Zero Dawn, we are once again joining Aloy in her quest to save the world. Along her journey to the majestic, dangerous and unknown frontier, players will be confronted with new discoveries, impressive scenery, meet more interesting people, and come face to face with amazing machines. Players will recognize the robust foundation built by the first game. Still, Horizon Forbidden West expands upon everything else and delivers an experience that have made significant strides in almost every area. The writing has never been better, allowing an already intriguing sci-fi narrative to go even further while still maintaining its links to the past. And suffice to say, Aloy's adventures in the sequel will go places that are both surprising and unexpected. And more importantly, it all makes sense in this universe that Guerrilla Games have created. Between the unstoppable blight, vicious storms, and more fearsome machines roaming the lands, it will be up to Aloy and her allies to bring everyone together and overcome the challenges of man, machine, and artificial intelligence. Guerrilla has also masterfully applied that level of quality to almost every side activity in the game. While getting rewards is always gratifying, there has not been a game quite like this that warrants players going off the beaten path with regularity without feeling like unnecessary filler. It does not matter whether you're starting fresh or a storied historian. There are always tantalizing tidbits here and there to drive you to the next attainable goal. And it is all brought together by characters both big and small that help immerses players into Horizon Forbidden West, and writing that informs, educates, and hooks you in for that high of just one more adventure at the next turn. Aloy's personal perspective as an outcast savior will undergo a wonderful transformation as the game progresses, helping her evolve into not just a more likable character, but also someone who learns to trust in others and cooperate for the greater good. If you have ever felt the unpleasant tinge of imposter syndrome, you will be able to relate to her fears, worries, and eventually growth. Joined by already familiar faces like Aaron and Val, the journey will establish new connections and strengthen old ones, with even more time for fan favourites to shine alongside the other standout additions, including Angela Bassett's Regala and Nosha Dalal's Katalo. The various new tribes are all interesting to learn about and live among, with the Tanakh being an exceptional and well-developed society of tribes, coming together under the teachings of an ancient war museum. Then we have the Utaru, a more peaceful, loving people that exudes a sense of zen and being one with the world. It also helps that the technology involved has been elevated, with facial and motion capture doing plenty to add to that magic on screen. With the PlayStation 5, higher detailed textures and models are constantly on show, together with some truly breathtaking lighting to bring everything to life. Although there appears to be some hilarious issues with eye tracking while conversations are taking place, everything else tends to be pristine in its presentation. The even bigger playground in which Aloy will travel throughout the entirety of Horizon Forbidden West is diverse and striking, creating biomes that are unique when it comes to environments, flora, fauna, and of course the threats that await. Adding in substantial underwater sequences in the story spices things up quite nicely. Although outside of it, swimming is usually not that fun of an affair, especially with Aloy feeling kinda sluggish in the water, but wherever there are threats underwater, it helps up the tension quite nicely, and is home to some of the more welcome but rare stealth sections. Speaking of threats, there is no Horizon Forbidden West without an array of intricately designed machines that are ready to put players through their paces. Be it land, air, or sea, there is no taking away from that feeling of awe when coming face to face with one. The sequel brings back many of the machines from the first game, but also adds to the variety with some truly magnificent new additions like the Trematas, the reptilian Slitherfang, and a few surprises that are left better experience on your own. Taking them down remain an immensely satisfying gameplay loop that drives most of the meaningful progression in Horizon Forbidden West. And Guerrilla has not only created dangerous opponents that are challenging and exciting to take on, but also increased the strategic depth involved with new tools at your disposal as well. Aloy can draw from a trusty arsenal of bows, tripcasters, blast slings and more, including the almighty spike throwers that can deal a ton of damage, to handle all of these imposing foes. Switching from one to the other, taking advantage of elements and weaknesses, every fight is always engaging to a certain degree. While it is already an achievement taking down some of the bigger machines in the world, the real meat lies in tearing off valuable components that can be useful in many ways. The refined focus mechanic now recognizes enemy weaknesses much more effectively and cleanly, while allowing you to hold in on what you want to target and lets you loose. Furthermore, Aloy can count on brand new skill trees to augment her combat prowess, with trees dedicated to melee combat, range combat, traps, survival, stealth, and machine mastery, with different passive and active skills to really drill down on how you want to approach the dangers. Horizon Forbidden West caters to different playstyles quite well. While range and track combat has always been the star, the melee combat in Horizon Forbidden West deserves special praise as well for adding to Aloy's repertoire of moves. The new combos are fun to execute and helps our heroine become a more well-rounded fighter that can mix it up. This is especially helpful when coming up against human opponents, which definitely pales in comparison to fighting the machines, but remains a good workout otherwise. And if things get too hairy, Aloy can unleash a selection of Valor Surges, which utilizes a meter that gets filled up by pulling off specific combat moves. These powerful abilities can be a lifesaver when used at the right time, such as providing a special shield that absorbs damage, an aerial effect blast that is effective against machine, or potent range attacks that can instantly kill any machine in the right situation. By combining a robust combat system that involves all disciplines to great effect, with skill trees and abilities that provide tangible benefits both in action and passively, Horizon Forbidden West has rightfully focused the spotlight on the combat, and it continues to shine like the gleaming jewel it has always been, but even better this time around. As for the rest of the game outside of combat, things have been improved in all kinds of areas. Aloy is much more adept at navigating the environment, creating new paths that add more verticality on land as well as on sea. Just do not expect to be able to climb every single surface here. Some light puzzle platforming elements also changes things up once in a while, and all in all, that means more tonics to climb, drones to recover, and plenty more collectibles that are not just diversions to occupy yourself with, but also add flavor to the proceedings. Conversations with different characters uncover dialogue trees, and there are even choices that can be made to portray Aloy as you want her to be. The increased characterization of Aloy is more obvious, and the relationships with her band of allies become a source of strength more and more, drawing players into the conflict with every passing second. There are hunting grounds to clear, and the game's new arena is definitely a stop not to be missed if you want to truly show off your mastery of the combat in Horizon Forbidden West. Do not miss out on the gauntlet races either. The side content in Horizon Forbidden West is staggering in number and scope as well, and while none of it seems essential, engaging in them just allows you to become more familiar with the world, the people, and the many systems at play in the game. You'll become stronger, smarter, and more attached to everything you see, even if the fundamental gameplay does not deviate too far from the fighting, collecting items, or doing the odd investigative work. This is testament to the excellence of Guerrilla, that nothing feels forced or tacked on, but rather an extension of what players would end up loving to do. Having set a high bar for itself in certain aspects of the game, there are unfortunately some issues that dog Horizon Forbidden West during our 70 odd hours and counting spent. Even with the power of the PS5, there were slight hitches in loading when travelling around an admittedly larger world, and draw distances can get wonky at times. The aforementioned eye-tracking issues seems to happen quite often, with characters not always looking involved in conversations, while there were instances where the models become invisible as well. Fighting the human enemies was always going to be less entertaining than the machines, but it adds more frustration when they begin clipping into the environment and preventing completion of objectives. Aloy herself is not immune too, getting locked in animations while picking up loot or dropping off heights, and while it is nice to see her being able to climb more stuff, it will take some getting used to her feeling a little bit more cumbersome than one would expect. Granted, Guerrilla has already identified some of these issues and they will be fixed with the day 1 patch at launch, but it is important to keep that in mind when jumping into the game for the first time. With its added scale, the refinement of everything good about the first game, while adding in new features of its own, Horizon Forbidden West can be forgiven for the odd mishap here and there, which, while annoying, matters little when there's so much more entertainment to be had. Horizon Forbidden West occupies a unique position, straddling between two generations as an exclusive that is both meant as a continuation of something great and a showcase of what this generation is capable of. The game represents not just what the power of the PlayStation 5 can do, but also the craft and expertise of a first-party studio that is part of this console ecosystem. As the first major PS5 first-party release of 2022, there is no doubt that this is the latest gem in Sony's collection of resplendent exclusives, delivering gameplay, graphics, and storytelling of the highest order. Just like Aloy, it would seem we are just on the cusp of another level of evolution for Guerrilla Games, and with the third game inevitably in the pipeline, this can only mean greater things to come.